Starting the Tech News Weekly in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tech News Weekly, your source for all things tech. I'm Andrew Zarian. Of course, I'm joined by John Bob, as I am each and every week. How you doing, John?
Hey, what's up?
I know you were sick for the last, like 10 days.
Yeah, I'm still a little sick. I'm still not feeling 100%, so my energy is down and everything.
So what happened? What'd you have, a flu or?
I don't know what it was. It was very bizarre because I wasn't like throwing up or anything, but I was nauseous, lightheaded, and extremely dizzy for several days.
Yeah, it seems like everybody's getting sick over the last couple of weeks. I mean, everybody that I'm talking to, you see podcasts being canceled left and right for this mystery illness that we're all suffering from.
I don't know what it was because I've never had anything like it before.
Well, it was a good time to get sick because I was in Las Vegas last week, so I couldn't do the show.
Yeah.
So, I ate a lot, I drank a lot, and I lost a lot of money. So it was a perfect Vegas trip. But a lot happened this week in tech. So why don't we just go right into it? The Apple event, the Apple announcements. It was the Apple Watch event, which ended up being the MacBook event, which also became somewhat of a Apple TV event. So do you want to go down this? Let's go one by one into these announcements and what happened. They did a weird thing with HBO, where they debuted HBO's live streaming service.
Yeah, it's called HBO Now, and it's launching exclusively in April, just in time for Game of Thrones on iOS devices only. And this is the kicker, is that it's iOS only.
It's iOS only.
If you want it for your Android device or your PC, you're not going to be able to access it until the exclusivity for Apple runs out.
For now. I mean, it's exclusive for now, so we don't know how long that's going to be. That could potentially be...
They say it's a 90-day exclusive offer, so it'll run out in July.
Okay. So in July, and then it'll be available.
It costs $14.99 per month for HBO Now. And I'm still not exactly sure if you get the live stuff or not, or if it's just... I think it's the live stuff, but I'm not sure.
No.
Somebody wants to correct me.
No, it's full-fledged HBO. It's the live plus the on-demand content.
With access to the back catalog and everything, correct?
Yeah. So, I had a discussion with someone, and we were kind of debating on why people become cord cutters. If I would ask you, because you're a semi-cord cutter, why do you choose to be a cord cutter opposed to getting cable service?
That's a good question, because I'm not exactly sure either.
Okay. It's obviously not for the savings, right? I mean, to some extent.
Some people try and do it for the savings. Brian Brushwood does it for savings to a degree. I'm a semi-cord cutter in the sense that I like to have everything the way that I want it, but I'm not opposed to paying to have that ability.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to paying for cable and having equipment to view it in whatever manner that I want.
Okay,
such as an HD Home Run Prime.
Yeah, so, I mean, the crazy thing is, with all these services existing, it's going to get a little pricey. Probably not as expensive.
This is something that I've argued forever with people that are buying digital content, is that this stuff just adds up.
It does.
Even if you're buying episodes on iTunes or Amazon or Google, you're paying $2.99 per episode. And even if you're doing seasons can cost upwards of even $50 per season.
Yeah, so it actually comes down to what you're watching and how much you're watching. If you don't really watch a lot of television and you decide to cut the cord and you're happy with just having Hulu and Netflix, you're perfectly fine. You benefit from this.
But even then, I mean, you talk about it. All right, so you need Hulu Plus.
Okay, $9.
That's what?
$8.
$9 a month.
Yeah.
You need Netflix. That's another $10 a month.
Okay.
Then you need the HBO Now stuff. That's $15.
And let's say you get the Sling TV.
Yeah,
which is $20.
That's another $20 a month.
$20 a month.
You're paying the same as you would for your basic cable plan.
Yeah. I mean, it gets a little pricey now. I know why people do it. Like I have Hulu and I have Netflix and I have the redundancy, of having some stuff on, both of
Yeah.
them. I'm just surprised at I'm just surprised that they did an exclusive deal with Apple for HBO. That this is an exclusivity thing for them for at least 90 days. The other thing that shocked me was, and I think I was texting you when this was happening. I go, oh, here it is. Here's a new Apple TV. They're going to unveil it because this makes perfect sense, right? They spent so much time on Apple TV and how now they got this exclusive deal with HBO. Nope, no new Apple TV. They just lowered the price.
Yeah.
So
Apparently, it was some sort of big buildup, and then they really didn't do anything other than say that it's a lower price. It's now only $69 instead of $99.
And they had to do that because they have to compete with the market. You could get a Roku stick for, a fraction of the $100. You get
the cost of the hardware just doesn't warrant $99 anymore.
No.
That's the plain and simple fact.
No, it's 3 years old.
It still may be a great device for people that are completely immersed in the iOS experience, but the hardware just isn't commanding that sort of price anymore. At least not that particular hardware. You have better options if you're looking for something that's going to be faster and have more memory available to it.
Yeah. Is this going to make people go and buy new Apple TVs? A lot of the delays, I think they have a new Apple TV. Obviously, Curtis B in our chat brings up a good point because Apple has been negotiating with content providers like HBO for years, and they finally got the deal. We're able to make the deal with them. That's probably why they haven't announced the new Apple TVs, because they don't have the other agreements lined up yet. I mean, that makes the most sense, to me.
Yeah.
That they're holding it back for whatever reason.
I mean, if you would have asked me about the $69 price for the Apple TV like 4 months ago, I would have said, yeah, that's a good deal. But a lot's changed in just the 4 months.
A lot has changed in the 4 months, absolutely.
And I don't think that's. I think they milked the price on that for way too long.
Why don't we go into so the Apple TV, $69, whatever. They also debuted a new MacBook. The MacBook is back.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not the plastic thing that we remember the MacBook being. This is a beautiful 12-inch display. It's 13.1 millimeters thick. It is actually really a it's
Andrew,
a very
are you
nice
switching
device.
the cameras?
I am. It's not switching?
I'm still seeing myself on Skype for like the last 10 minutes.
Let's see. Wow,
There you
weird.
go.
That's weird. It went to Numluck was on. Interesting. All right. Very nice. It's a beautiful device. That is all I could say about it right now. It's a very beautiful. It's a beautiful device. It's running a Core M processor. It's fanless. It's a Broadwell chip. It's fanless. It is not that powerful. It's fine for just everyday use. $1,300 for the 1.51 gigahertz Core M processor. If you want the more powerful one, which is 1.2 gigahertz, and it comes with 512 gigs of 512 gigabyte SSD, $1,600. Now the other part of the story is
shocking.
that this has
I don't
one.
really care.
Well, I mean, aesthetically, John. I know. Listen, you're an editor, right? You need power. You want something with a little bit more horsepower. But
I'll be honest. I've been having a hard time recently with Apple in terms of the cost of the devices for what you're getting, and they've been making some really strange choices that just don't make a whole lot of sense to me. And I don't necessarily think that the hardware specs for this device match up with the price.
Yeah, you're paying
I know
for the
that
aesthetics.
Apple is a premium device company, but even then, I think a lot of people that are more budget conscious, such as myself, are going to have a hard time looking at this. This is going to be for the people that are diehard Apple people. I think.
More than that, I think it's for the people that want they're buying it for the aesthetics and not the horsepower. Which is, you know what? Guess what?
Sure.
It's most people nowadays. Most people nowadays are buying stuff because it looks pretty. That's really.
But I
plays a
wasn't
big part in
thinking the
this.
same thing of their previous devices. Not since about a year ago. I thought their devices that they were rolling out were fine. now I'm starting to question because it seems like everything that they're selling is more expensive now than it has been in the past. It just seems like to me there's been a steady increase in the cost of Apple devices over the last year.
So if this device had, I guess it was had the speed and the performance of a MacBook Air, would that be an issue for you? For the price point? Probably not. So it's a weird in between device because the MacBook would have been their lower end, right? Technically,
Yeah.
And it was their entry price point, but now the Air is a price point. So this is smaller
honestly,
than,
I think for a device like this, $12.99 for a starting point is just a little too much.
yeah, I thought that too. I was
If they did, $10.99 or even $11.99, they would have been much better off.
Paul
I
brought
think
up an interesting point, though.
$200 more expensive than it should be.
I agree with you 100%, but Paul brought up an interesting thing. He goes, well, if this was 4 gigs of RAM and had 128, gig SSD, what would the pricing there be? It would probably be starting $899.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's what I was thinking. The price point would be much less. The other issue for this,
they could have doubled that RAM for another $200, and it would still be below cost of what they're selling right now.
yeah, and look at this. They're charging you for the higher model. It's $300 more.
I think it's just crazy.
Yeah. So I want to bring this up, though. The thing about this device that bothers me more than anything else, it's not the price. It's not the CPU. I'm okay with it. For what it is, I understand what it is. The thing that's missing on this device is the battery life. They made this huge display, the huge thing about how the battery...
That's your biggest gripe is the battery life on this device?
It is, because this is my opinion. With this device being launched, if this was giving you 15 hours of battery life, I would have said, wow, this is actually a really good deal for most people that are on the go. They're going to buy this thing because nobody's giving you that kind of performance out of this kind of form factor. And there's no fan, and it's a beautiful device. But the fact of the matter is you're not getting that battery life. You're not getting it because the Intel chip has some issues when it comes to performance and when it comes to battery life. The other problem is this thing has a Retina display, so that also plays a big factor on why the battery life isn't there. This device, 2 generations from now, will be a kick-ass device. Right now, it's a first-gen device. People are going to still buy it because it's absolutely pretty, and people buy stuff. When people go into the Apple store, they're going to say, wow, look at that. It comes in gold. Buying it.
Gold.
You know what's crazy? I'm going to tell you something, John. We're laughing at the gold thing. Everybody that I've showed this device to, and I go, which one do you pick? Everybody picks the gold. Everybody picks the gold. They love the gold.
Gold is like one of my least favorite colors.
I want the gold.
Why?
Why not? Why not?
I've just never cared for that. Really, I don't know. To me, it's just like somebody peed on it.
Yeah, Jay Hack in our chat room brings up something interesting. He goes, an $899 model with a lower res display, 128 SSD, and 4 gigs of RAM would have been perfect. I totally agree with you. The other thing that's bizarre on this device is that it has a 480p webcam.
Yeah, that is strange.
I don't, I was talking to Paul
for
about
a company
this.
that goes premium and tries to give you the best of the best, stuff.
Yeah.
480p, it just sounds strange.
It's.
I'll tell you my one of my biggest issues with this MacBook, and it's not the price, it's the lack of ports. And I know you've had this problem with other Apple MacBooks in the past, where you're just not getting enough ports on it anymore. Apparently, you only have 2 ports on it. You have the headphone jack, and you have the USB Type-C, which is a new USB standard that's now coming out on devices.
It's like a mini
Those
USB.
are the only ports that you have on this device.
Yeah, and you know what was interesting? Google made an announcement.
They expect you to buy this,
the dongle,
$70, $80 device so that you can plug things into it.
When I think of Apple, right? Like you think of these beautiful Apple devices. The last thing I envision is a bunch of stuff being plugged into it, like dongles and adapters and breakout cables. But that seems to be the method now, and that seems to be the future of this company because they're doing it with this version of the MacBook. They're doing it with the Mac Pro, where everything is a dongle. It has like 6 Thunderbolts, and then you connect everything via Thunderbolt. But what was fascinating was the following day, both Microsoft and Google came out to kind of say, like, well, the future is USB Type-C. We're all going to USB Type-C.
Mm-hmm.
In what sense are they going to USB Type-C? Are we saying that the power adapter now will all be USB Type-C? Are we saying,
Well,
they're going to all do this breakout method?
It's interesting because technically you can use USB Type-C for a multitude of things now. You can use it for data, you can use it for video, and you can use it for power. Those are 3 different things that you can use it for. So technically, you can have this same standard port delivering all 3 of those things. So you could have multiples of these ports doing different things. You could have that same connector for power. You could have it for video. You could have it for data. So it's no longer limited just to data. You can plug in a monitor to one of those things.
Yeah, sure.
You can plug in power cord to it.
No, I get that. I actually like the standardization of going USB Type-C all across the board, especially with all these power adapters.
Yeah. It's the lack of ports that you're getting on it.
It's the lack of ports you're getting.
Spend $80 for this device where you can actually plug in multiple devices to that one port.
Well, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So
that's just weird.
So that was the announcement. They also announced a new trackpad.
That's fine if you only have one thing to plug in, but if you have more than one thing to plug in, well, now that means I got to spend $80 to plug in more than one thing.
Well, I'll tell you where the problem is, right? Like I was thinking about this. Well, most people aren't using stuff plugged into these devices, right? 99% of the time, most people are not walking around plugging it in. They have the power plugged in, and that's about it. But that's not true because most people are plugging their phones into their laptop to charge.
Yep.
So,
or if they're a business user, they have a wireless mouse that they take with them.
Yeah, or you got a wireless mouse you're plugging in. So, yeah, you know what? You're right. You need some more ports. One is not enough. If they put 2 on them, it would have been fine. 1 on each side.
Yeah,
that wasn't the case. Did you really look into the trackpad information? Because that's fascinating that it's going to have this different type of response and it's a totally different type of trackpad, which they've updated.
I left this totally to you.
Okay, so I'm the trackpad guy, right? Like I'm obsessed with the trackpads.
Yep.
They've updated their lineup across the board. The only MacBook now that doesn't have the trackpad is the 15-inch MacBook Pro. The 13-inch got an update to the trackpad and new CPU. The MacBook Air got an update with the new trackpad and CPU. So it's a new type of response, and this is their response to kind of...
Is this the Force Touch?
The Force Touch
that
one.
Talking about?
Yeah, the Force Touch.
Which is rumored to also be in the next generation iPhone.
Yeah, so they're saying it's going to be like long touch and soft touch, and essentially you're going to be able to hold it longer, and it's going to do different things.
For the device to actually recognize the difference between a hard press, a soft press, a long press, a short press.
Yeah, and I think that's cool. I mean, their trackpads are amazing to begin with, so I'm positive it'll be fine. The other part was that they changed the keyboard, where it's a flatter keyboard and has a different mechanism to actually push the keyboard. So they were saying, well, it's not wobbly. Right now it's 2 plastic pieces that kind of go like this inside of it, and they grip onto the keyboard. So now it's a piece of metal and it's kind of flat. It's fine. I haven't typed on it. I haven't heard awful stuff. It says it takes getting used to, just like any other keyboard. So that's fine with me.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either.
Overall, it's a beautiful device. I'm curious the next generation, what the next one brings, and I'm sure it's going to be far more powerful.
I don't know. It's also the fact that, I mean, if you look at what you're getting, it just, for $1,300, all you get is one port to plug stuff into. Like, come on, really? Yeah. For $1,300, it better at least have 2.
How about 6? I want USB ports.
Great.
I want USB ports everywhere, from the top, from the bottom. I just want USB ports covering this entire thing. So why don't we talk about the Apple Watch? They announced the main event. They announced the
thing that everybody waited for.
Yeah. They announced the release date and the pre-order goes on April 10th.
April 10th.
Available April 24th. It comes in 2 sizes. Not new stuff. 38 millimeter and 42 millimeter. Battery lasts about 18 hours, which I don't have a problem with. You're going to have to charge your phone, so that's another thing you take off and you charge. 8 gigs of storage, and this was the fascinating thing. 2 gig is available. So 2 gig is available for music. So 200 and 250 songs at 256 kilobytes, per second quality. 75 meg for space for photos. And the
Which they
remaining
resized,
6,
by the way, so that it fits appropriately on the watch.
Yeah.
So you're not getting a full resolution photo. It's shrinking it down specifically to fit on the watch.
The remaining 6 gig is dedicated to the OS and future updates. The Sport Edition will start at $349. The regular watch is $549, and it goes up to $1,100 almost if you go crazy with the configuration on the top. With the top configuration. The Edition watch, the Edition version, which is the gold version, starts at $10,000. It makes its way all the way up to $17,000 for the 18-karat gold version. Now, let's
be cynical some more, Andrew.
I'm not going to be cynical.
Let's hate on Apple some more.
I'm not being cynical. I understand the purpose of this $10,000 version, right? It's not for us. This is, and it's a limited edition. So let's say there's 1,000 of them made.
You don't have any FU money to spend on this?
Even if I did, I wouldn't buy an Apple Watch, a gold $10,000 Apple Watch. I mean, it's stupid money. It's not even you're wealthy. Let me backtrack here because I'm gonna lose my point in a second because I'm gonna get a little loud. The purpose of this version has nothing to do with the consumer. It has to do with being on display in so and so jewelers. It has to do with being on display on Vogue magazine, on all these magazines worldwide. It is
so basically
it's a showpiece.
It's a marketing.
Absolutely, it's a marketing piece. They're going to give this out to models. It's going to be on the set for photo shoots. That's the point of this device because someone's going to look at it and say, "Wow, that's actually really pretty." Because you know what, you could pretty it up in a magazine cover. It's not for us. The problem that I have is with the Apple apologists that compare this to buying a Rolex. It is not the same as buying a Rolex. If I buy a $10,000 Rolex, that $10,000 Rolex will still work 30 years from now. This watch will be obsolete within 18 months. Number 2, a Rolex is handcrafted, or any higher-end watch is handcrafted by Swiss watchmakers. There's something that goes into it. It's not made in a factory in China with, $150 worth of components, and it has the same insides as, the $350 model. You're paying essentially for the 18 karat gold.
It's gold.
Sure. The other argument I've heard is, well, you could always sell it afterwards. Gold has value. Well, no, not like that. We're not talking scrap gold does not have the value anywhere near what you're going to pay for this thing. So the reality is this is a marketing tool. It's to show, well, our watch is beautiful, our watch is high end. People are going to see this in a magazine. They're not going to think about going and buying the $10,000 one. They're going to go into an Apple store and spend $500 and get that one. That's all it is. But my problem is not with the fact that there's a $10,000 version. My problem is people coming up with excuses on, well, people buy Rolexes and higher end watches all the time. It's not the same thing. You're not buying a watch. You're buying a piece of technology. It's a computer.
I'm not even sure that those same people that are buying those Rolexes and are necessarily the same people that would buy a $10,000 Apple Watch.
No, and listen, and the internet has this bizarro mentality where, well, if you have a Rolex, you're rich. If you're spending $10,000,
you got that
you're
much
rich.
money to burn.
Yeah, like I was in a debate with somebody on Twitter.
It's also different because an Apple Watch is actually going to take more work than a Rolex because it functions more than a Rolex in the sense that you connect it to an iPhone and it does all these different things, so you actually have to work on using it.
It's not the same, yeah, but it's not the same thing. Like it's not jewelry.
You're not going to throw it on your wrist and it's just working. You actually have to connect it to
iPhone, something, yeah.
Program it and select what it is that you want to do with it.
Yeah,
Whereas people buying a Rolex probably don't necessarily care to go through all those motions just to wear it.
Listen, I have a Rolex. It was given to me for my birthday. It's not a cheap thing. But people buy.
Rolex.
But people buy. But here's the thing: you buy that. It's a memory. You know, someone you get a Rolex. You hang on to that watch. You give it to your kid. You
So
know,
I'm gonna get a Rolex when I've been at GFQ for 5 years.
yeah, your 5-year gift is a Rolex. It's a gold watch. Your retirement from GFQ will be a gold watch, John. So you're gonna get 20 years from now. I'm gonna get you the first generation Apple Watch as a retirement gift. It really comes. It's not the same thing. So stop making
I
making
knew I
excuses.
should have asked when I was gonna get it.
It's just the excuse that people have where it's the same thing. You know what? A middle-class person may buy a Rolex. A middle-class person will not go and buy a $10,000 Apple Watch. And if they do, they're idiots.
I don't think the majority of most people are going to buy an Apple Watch regardless. I was looking at the poll that Engadget has, asking if users are going to buy an Apple Watch. And it's interesting because 31% of people said that they would buy an Apple Watch, but 69% of people, and this is out of 45,000 people, a little over 45,000 people, 69% said that they are not interested in buying an Apple Watch. That's 70% of people that don't have any interest whatsoever in an Apple Watch.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people do. You know, and you're
That
also
seems really high for Apple to come out with something that really isn't that much of a market for. I mean, you could have made the same argument, I guess, for the iPhone when it debuted, and possibly the iPad, but I just don't see the same thing happening with a smartwatch. People have been doing smartwatches.
I don't think and Apple's not doing anything different than anybody else. I don't think anybody's doing it the way that, you know, we kind of envision this smartwatch to be. I think over time, with more sensors getting cheaper and smaller, these devices are going to become semi-important to have, especially if you're diabetic or you have some sort of health issues.
Not only
the
that,
monitoring goes a long way. But for the average person, I don't know if we're ever going to get to that point.
Your phone already does some of the same things.
It does. You're right.
And if it doesn't, you can pick up a $100 Fitbit and do almost everything
Or
that you would
the
want to do health-wise.
Yeah, listen, it's just not there yet. The technology's not there yet. This is a first-gen device.
You can spend $15 if you want a pedometer to see how many steps you take.
You can, yeah. I mean, I honestly think, listen, in a year from now, in 2 years from now, when the second and third gen versions of this device come out, I'm sure I'm gonna say, wow, this is actually really cool. But right now, I can't do that. I'm not crazy about it.
Is it because of the functionality or is it because of price?
The functionality. There's nothing that,
I mean, the first gen iPhone wasn't great on functionality either compared to today.
No, but you know what?
I still think the technology is a good 3-4 years away, 3 to 5 years away from actually being something that people desire, much like the iPhone.
It's
or
redundancy. I mean,
today.
to me, it's just redundant information. I'm not really crazy about any of the smartwatches. It does nothing for
not
me,
only that,
but I could be wrong.
It's like the investment and the amount of money that you have to spend on this device. All right, so you're taking the basic device, $349. So that's $349 for the watch. Then if you want another band or a different band, they'll start at $50. So you're at least $400 out from that point. Then you have to have an iPhone. That's $500. So that's almost $1,000 you have to have invested in order to use a smartwatch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of money. I don't know. Listen, I could be, I also was not crazy about the iPad the first generation this thing came out, and look at it now. I'm on it right now. I'm streaming and I'm doing a whole thing on it right now. So it's I take back that. But at the time, it was not desirable for me.
Yeah.
But in a couple of years,
I'm not saying that it couldn't change in the future, but at this point, I'm like you. I'm having a hard time seeing it.
You want to go into another story, John?
So there was a big uproar on Indiegogo this week. An actor and filmmaker by the name of Alan Tudyk launched an Indiegogo. I don't know if you've heard of this. He's doing an Indiegogo for a new series called Con Man. And it also co-stars a guy by the name of Nathan Fillion, which you might know from Castle.
Firefly.
Another show that he did with Alan called Firefly.
So
I don't know if you're familiar with this series.
I am very familiar. Are you one of these guys that is hoping Firefly comes back and, there's like a whole thing?
To a degree, yes. I don't ever want Firefly to come back because it's been way too long, and they did a really good job with Serenity to wrap up Firefly. That was a great way to wrap up a series that Fox canceled way too early. So at this point, I just don't think you could ever come back and do Firefly the same way again. It's just been too long.
You know what I would like to see? More, and I think we're going to see a lot of this. More canceled shows starting to do like the Indiegogo and the crowdfunding to kind of bring them back.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that earlier today. I'm like, what if Firefly had come out last year in 2014, or even this year, and Fox had already canceled it? In this day and age, with the way that we have all these crowdfunding sources and ways to crowdfund projects now, I almost feel like if Firefly had come out now, they could have survived getting canceled and still done something independently.
Yeah. No, I'm positive. I think a lot of these shows, like Veronica Mars, for example, collected millions.
Yeah.
To make a movie and kind of close up the storyline. And now they're saying that they may come back there. They may do a TV series again. You're going to start seeing a lot of these shows starting to do this. I think that's great. Listen, if there's a lot of interest in them, they don't need the networks.
Well, it's crazy because I'm looking at it right now. They're almost at $1.6 million on their funds for the Con Man. That's insane.
What were they hoping? What was their goal?
Their initial goal was $425,000, and they had a whole bunch of stretch goals.
Okay.
And they are literally just a few $1,000s away from $1.6 million from funding this. If everything gets funded, all their stretch goals, you're going to end up with 12 episodes, which is a decent first season.
Yeah. Well, did you see? Kind of go off track a little bit. Did you see that Fox is bringing back the X-Files?
No.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of stuff for that. I've never been interested in it, though.
You were not an X-Files fan. That's what you're telling me right now.
Yeah, I've just never been able to get into it. It was just a little bit too...
Yes or no, David Duchovny's a hunk.
Yeah.
True or false?
Okay.
How are you not into the X-Files? No, but I think we're going to start seeing a lot of this.
Are people going to call me a fake geek now because I'm not into the X-Files? Is that what it is?
The X-Files was a great show.
I know people hate on other people that claim they're a geek or a nerd, but don't actually watch something.
Listen, I hate Star Wars, and people think I'm insane. I think it's the dumbest thing ever. People lose their minds. I mean, they get physically angry when I tell them I never liked Star Wars. I didn't get it. My mother-in-law is a huge Star Wars fan. My father's a humongous Star Wars fan. We have heated arguments. And they go, well, what do you like? And I go, Star Trek. And they go, how can you like Star Trek and not Star Wars? I'm like, actually, The Next Generation, my favorite.
Absolutely.
Jean-Luc
I'm
Picard.
with you on that one.
I mean, Data. How can you not like a robot?
And Geordi.
And
Picard. And Riker.
Yeah.
My God. What a great show that
was. The Dream Team. I get Star Wars. I get it. I'm just not into it. It just, who cares? He has daddy issues, and his father's just this evil guy, and he's a robot, but he turns good at the end, and he was burned in a pool. I seen them all. He was a child.
You're going to get so much hate mail for this.
Just bring it.
This is going to be the end of Tech News Weekly because we can't do this anymore because you screwed us.
What did I do?
Saying you don't like Star Wars.
I said it on Behind a Counter. And they were telling us, I'm like, I don't care about the big fat mush guy. I don't care about Robo Man. Yeah, Robo Man. And I just...
Big fat mush guy.
Yeah, Jabba the Hutt, big fat mush guy. So... I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but listen, I get it. It's fine. Whatever. You like it. I think
the series comment looks interesting. It's basically kind of an afterlife of what they've done since Firefly, where they've gone onto the Comic-Con convention and sci-fi conventions.
Yeah.
Basically, he's just going to write a whole bunch of stuff from his experience from going to all these cons.
That's great.
They have a teaser up right now. It's a little 4-minute teaser, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's going to be available. This is interesting. The series is going to be available on Vimeo.
Yeah, apparently Vimeo and Indiegogo have some sort of tie-in.
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting spin for Vimeo to kind of become a place where independent.
They have some great stuff on here for some of the stuff that you can do. Like if you spend $25,000, you can actually have a birthday party with Nathan and Alan.
I would like that. I would like to spend 25 grand.
That'd be great.
We could have a pizza party with them.
Yeah.
Vimeo is interesting, and I think they kind of found their niche now for what they're going to be doing with a lot of these independent films to kind of rent and buy them on Vimeo. They seem to be doing a lot of documentaries on there, which, at least they're one of the few that kind of was able to break out from the whole YouTube style of content. Blip really didn't survive. Blip is kind of doing independent,
I
online
love the
content,
fact that there's these Indiegogos and Kickstarters that you can crowdfund independent projects now that otherwise would never, ever get the funding otherwise. I know that I think you also backed Kung Fury on Kickstarter.
I did, yeah.
Which is another highly anticipated Kickstarter that I know we're both excited about. And that project would have never have really gone as far as it did without funding from crowd.
You know what? This just shows you how important the internet is. If it wasn't for the internet, you would never have content like this.
Even people that like us that use Patreon and go to patreon.com/whatthetech.
Yeah, you're funding
$1 every episode.
Yeah, people are funding me. I mean, it's crazy. Listen, for $25 and a 6-pack, I will come to your birthday party. We could do that. Forget about the 25 grand. Give me $25 and a 6-pack, and I'll sit there and I'll hang out on your birthday party.
Travel expenses not included.
Travel expenses not included. All right, John. Let's wrap it up. We'll end the show a little early today. I know you're still recovering. Oh, by the way, GigaOM shut down, which is unbelievable, actually.
Yeah, that came out a couple days ago, I think.
Yeah, GigaOM shut down, and it's because they were unable to pay their creditors.
Yeah, they ran out of money.
They ran out of money, and
I guess they should have done some crowdfunding.
You know what's scary here? A lot of these companies, and I'm not saying this is the case for GigaOM, but over the last couple of years, a lot of our content partners have kind of had to reorganize how they're handling funds and how they function.
Mm-hmm.
Stick'em, for example, went under. A lot of our streaming partners.
Sad about that.
Yeah, a lot of our streaming partners went under, and it's because they rely so much on vendor money and angel investors, where they're not really turning a profit. They're just relying on this funds. And I'm not saying this is the case in GigaOM's issue. I don't know the exact reason why they weren't able to pay the creditors, but they get big, they get bloated, and as soon as it's time to pay up, they can't pay up, and a lot of the investors start bailing slowly one by one. And this is what happens. I don't have any debt when it comes to GFQ. I mean, I wouldn't, unless you want to give me money and say, or forget it, Andrew. Here you go. Here's $25 and a case of beer. Come to my birthday party. That's the only. But it's sad to see him go, and I'm predicting we're going to see a lot more of these slowly start fading away. They've been around a long time, and now
I think that's the sad part when you see a company that's been on the internet for as long as GigaOM.
Yeah, they've been around. How long have they been around?
That's what's sad.
When did they start up? Let me see.
I know they've been around for a long time.
Almost 10 years, right? I would say almost. Yeah, 2006, so 9 years. So that's when a lot of these companies started, John.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these companies started around then. So let's sad to see another one go. All right, John. Let's wrap it up. You can follow John on Twitter at Suncast. You can follow me at Andrew Zarin. Of course, you can subscribe to us where podcasts are available. If you want to help us out, you could fund us on Patreon, patreon.com/whatthetech. Fund anything, a nickel, a dime, a penny, whatever you want to fund us, and we accept it. And you get access to our What the Talk bonus content that we do called What the Talk. Also, if you want to help us out and you don't want to give us anything, use our Amazon link. gfq.co/Amazon. That's gfq.co/Amazon. Whenever you make a purchase, you get a tiny little credit from it. It really goes a long way. I have a lot of upgrades to do. I actually had to buy a Cisco router for my.
I got a whole new studio that I got put together here in a month or two.
I know. So fund it. So Suncast could get all of his stuff. All right, that's it, guys. We'll see y'all next week. Take care.